Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily, the first English news program in Poland. I am your host, Benjamin Lee. The funeral of the late mayor of Gdańsk, Paweł Adamowicz, is taking place today in the Basilica of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary in Gdańsk, where the ashes of the murdered politician currently resides. The funeral of the deceased mayor was attended by family and friends, the highest dignitaries of Poland, including the president, politicians and officials from all levels of government across the country.
The city of Gdańsk said their goodbyes to their late mayor, Paweł Adamowicz. At a request from the victim's family, residents of Gdańsk donated money to charity instead of bringing flowers and grave lanterns. The memorial service started at noon at the St. Mary's Church in Gdańsk. The mass was conducted by the Archbishop Sławoj Leszek Głódź. We gathered here today in the famous St. Mary's Basilica in Gdańsk to pay our respects and say our farewell prayers to the tragically deceased Paweł Adamowicz. However, we are also here to confirm that we still remain connected with this man who is on his way to eternal life. The relatives of Paweł Adamowicz said their last goodbyes to the tragically deceased mayor.
To jest cudowny czas dzielenia się dobrem. Jesteście kochani.
Now is the best time to be kind to one another. You are all wonderful. Gdańsk is the greatest place on earth. Thank you. These were your last words, Paweł. After you said them, you left this world. But I do not want your funeral service to be overwhelmed with sadness and for us to wallow in grief. Although it is so difficult for us, I want to thank God for crossing our paths many years ago. It was thanks to him that I met a man who changed my life.
Jest nam dziś bardzo ciężko.
A plethora of Polish politicians took part in the service, including the President of Poland, Andrzej Duda, Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, as well as members of parliament and former Polish presidents. After the funeral, an urn containing the ashes of the murdered mayor of Gdańsk was placed in the St. Martin's Chapel.
A man in his 50s set himself ablaze in Prague on the 50th anniversary of the self-immolation protests of Jan Palach, the young student who decided to protest against the Soviet Union's invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1968 by sacrificing his own life on the main square of the country's capital. The latest case of self-immolation occurred in the exact same place, but the motive is still unknown.
Eyewitnesses saw a man pour gasoline on himself before setting himself ablaze. I saw him from afar, all in flames. The sight really shocked me. I thought, oh my God, he really is on fire. I ran up and tried to talk to him. Initially, I thought that he was dead, but then a woman said, he's not dead, he's still alive. People told me that a man had set himself ablaze. Some guests from a nearby restaurant ran up to him with a fire extinguisher. I guess that only his doctors and the police know anything about his current condition. The act of self-immolation took place on Wenceslas Square, the same location in which the history student Jan Palach sacrificed his life in a symbolic act directed against the communist regime and particularly the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1968. Palach's act was the second case of self-immolation in Central Eastern Europe. It was only preceded by that of the Pole Ryszard Siwiec, who also set himself on fire in a protest against the Soviet Union's decision to crush the Prague Spring. In the following 2 decades, around a dozen of people in Central Eastern Europe decided to protest against communism by adopting this tragic measure of dissent.
The White House announced that Donald Trump will meet the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in February. This will be the pair's second meeting following the historic summit that took place in Singapore in June 2018. The United States representatives are still waiting for the communist regime to take necessary steps in order to denuclearize. The exact date and place of the upcoming meeting remains unknown. The U.S. President Donald Trump released a video message on Friday night calling border security a humanitarian and national crisis, directing focus yet again to the ongoing immigration caravan pouring into the USA. The new migrant caravan numbers a few thousand people and is currently crossing the border between Guatemala and Mexico.
The border security issue is stirred up yet again as a hot-button issue in US politics. Early on Friday, the US Customs and Border Protection Agency released 2 videos of what was identified as 376 immigrants walking along the Arizona desert, reaching the border with the US where they queued for Border Patrol processing. US President Donald Trump released a video message shortly after, directing focus onto the issue and his regard of the situation as a humanitarian and national crisis.
Everybody knows by now that our southern border is a humanitarian crisis. It's also a national security crisis. Things are happening there, and they have been for many years, decades. But it only gets worse with time because a lot of people want to come into our country, and there are a lot of people that we don't want. We have criminals, we have gang members, we have human traffickers, we have drug smugglers. We don't want them in our country. Take the politics out of it, let's get to work, and let's make a deal. We sit down. A lot of the Democrats, they agree with me, they've told me so, but they're afraid to say it. We have to secure our southern border. If we don't do that, we're a very, very sad and foolish lot.
Scores of Central American migrants who crossed into Mexico from Guatemala on Friday, January 18th, waited to be processed by immigration authorities to receive humanitarian visas along with a wristband that would allow them to remain in Mexico or work as they continue northward towards the United States. They told us not to worry and that it's a program that gives us the opportunity to work and it's all good, just like the first caravan. The mostly Honduran migrants entered southern Mexico on Friday, joining around 1,000 additional immigrants from Central America that arrived a day prior and pressing the capacity of the vow taken by Mexico to guarantee the safe and orderly flow of people. Really, I think it's been great. The Mexican authorities have been treating us well, and I think it's a good opportunity to be able to get a humanitarian visa so that we can get through to there. The caravans have invoked the debates on US immigration policy yet again, with President Trump pointing to the loose border security infrastructures to secure backing for his plan to build a wall on the US-Mexican border.
That's it for today. See you next time on Poland Daily. But stay tuned for the Poland Daily business section with Alexander Wojcicki and his special guests.